Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Wasted Potential. I'm your host Ellie and I'm here with Agony Aunt Jack.
Hello!
In today's episode, Jack will be answering a number of questions from Yahoo, Dear Doc and various Agony Aunts found online. Before we begin, Jack, would you like to give us the running tally for what you've had to drink so far?
Okay, so I've had one bottle of wine. It's Campo Viejo Rioja, which is my favourite. And it's 10.1 units and contains sulfites. And I've started on another one, which is another red wine, Hardy's Bankside. It's much cheaper and it tastes it as well. We're getting through, because that's almost 10 units as well. So, depending on how this stream goes, I could be 20 in by the end. What's the UK recommended? It says so on this bottle, actually.
It says so on this one. It's 3 to 4 for men and 2 to 3 for women.
I'd like to point out that is bullshit. Because women shouldn't strictly be less than men. It's to do with the body mass index kind of thing, but that's much of a muchness. Basically, I'm 10 units in, and I've started on the next, so
yes.
Here we are.
Right, would you like some fun Yahoo questions that are absolutely ridiculous? That I'm expecting serious answers.
Serious answers.
You
got it.
As a side note, please do not take what we say in this podcast seriously. Neither myself nor Jack have a degree in anything related to psychology or medicine or whatever, so please take our advice with a hint of salt.
Me. Yeah.
I've
also
Jack.
had a lot to drink, which you may not have noticed. My cool and calm demeanour.
Yeah, it's going wonderful. Anyway, so, first question. What happens to the people born on February the 29th? Do they stay one until 4 years have passed?
Yes, next question. So, this one, I think I met someone who was born on February 29th, but they might have been lying. So, if you're born on February 29th, I guess kind of you do you. Well, I think if I was in that situation, I would just move it to 28th and go with that. And on all official documentation, I'd say 29th. But if anyone asked me, I'd just say 28th. It's so much easier. But, like,
that is true.
Yeah, my official name isn't Jack on any documentation. My first name is Arthur. But since I came out of the womb, people called me Jack. So that's just kind of the name I go by. So on official documentation, like when I'm writing to the NHS and stuff, it has to be Arthur. But usually everyone just calls me Jack because usually that's what I introduce myself as, unless I'm picking up a prescription.
Oh my God. That is a bombshell you just dropped on me.
Boom! Enjoy that.
Oh my God.
Ellie.
I'm sorry, we can't do this podcast anymore. Jack has been lying to me.
Well, I've got another one for you, Ellie. My second name,
ahead.
which I go by, isn't Jack either. It's actually John.
Oh my God.
But Jack is some kind of weird bastardization of John or something. I don't know. It's like people used to do that. I think it came from sailors. Sailors called John or called Jack or something. I don't know. But here we are. It's not my fault. I'd like to lay that out. I go by Jack because ever since I was wee and a tiny child and started hearing things from my ears, everyone called me Jack. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm Jack. And only later on, when I had an understanding of birth certificates and passports, did someone say, actually, your name isn't Jack. That's
so
be honest,
weird.
That fucked me over as well, Ellie. Like, I couldn't... That was something I struggled to deal with for a long time because everything I'd ever lived had been a lie. But I've come to terms with it. Just call me Jack and I'll be happy. If you call me Arthur, I will ignore you. My girlfriend calls me Arthur all the time, or Artie Boy, as she likes to call me, which is a dumb name. Don't call me that. I go by Jack, but Arthur isn't my name. What was the question again?
It was what happens to people born February the 29th, which you answered. You answered very well.
To Jack.
Change your name to Jack. Brilliant. I'm so glad we've come to this conclusion.
Yes. Well,
and that actually ties very well into my next question, which is about naming. Because clearly you, random stranger on the internet, are the best person to choose a name. So, this person is trying to think of names for their daughter. Is Rainbow Trout a good name for a baby girl?
Is Rainbow Trout a good name for a baby girl?
Yes.
Okay, in such situations, you have to go with your gut. And my gut says, hell no! Rainbow Trout is not a good name for a baby girl. Like, okay, first of all, Rainbow is not a good name for a baby girl. Like, I've heard of people calling their child Rainbow, and come on, how much stick are they gonna get? But imagine...
Yeah, it's not a great name.
Imagine you were not only named Rainbow, but also named after a fish. Like...
I think my favourite is that this has some quite hilarious answers as well. And someone replied... So someone replied, is this for a fish? Or are you a fish, sorry? And if so, yes, that's a great name. If you're a human, probably not.
Yeah.
Which, fair. And then someone else replied with, why don't you simply call them prawn for your spawn?
I've got a response to the first one. If you're a fish, probably a good name. When you think about it, not really. Because if they're a rainbow trout, you've called your child Rainbow Trout. And that's like calling your child human. Yeah, I don't have any issue with someone who calls their child human, but maybe not the best life choice. But then I considered the other alternative. I do a lot of considering when I've had a few drinks, and I have. Mm-hmm. So the other
That's
alternative
what we're here for.
Is that they're a fish, and they're not a rainbow trout, and they're called Rainbow Trout. And that is really disturbing. Like, what do you get out of that? How does that... That's weird.
It's a bit upsetting as well. I mean, imagine you're just like a boring old goldfish and your parents torturing you by calling you Rainbow Trout.
Yeah, or moray eel. That's the worst.
So the answer to that one is a definite no.
Yeah, don't call your child Rainbow Trout.
Moving on.
Yeah.
My wife changed Facebook status from married to widowed. Should I be worried?
In a word... Yes. Okay, so worst case scenario, your wife is planning to murder you.
The hitman's outside already.
Yep. Best case scenario that I can think of, they're trying to win sympathy from someone or cover up a dumb lie that they told someone.
I don't think that's best case scenario. I think best case scenario is they accidentally changed their Facebook settings.
Oh shit, yeah.
Jack didn't even think of that. Jack's
right.
This is a terrible thing.
I mean, my mind jumps to terrible places, Ellie. So it's possible that it's a mistake. What I would do, right, if I was in this position, the question asked, should I be worried? Yeah, a little bit. But go to your significant other and ask them about it. Openly say, hey, you changed your status to widowed and I'm not dead. And then see what they say. Because it might be a harmless mistake. But to be fair, that's what they would say if they were going to hitman you. So bear that in mind. But if they start to act threatening, get out of there and look for the warning signs of threatening behavior, right? Number 1, they have a weapon. Number 2, they're attacking you with the weapon. Then get out of there. That's a dangerous place to be in because they want to kill you. But it could be harmless, so approach them.
I think we've learnt 2 things from this.
Yes.
1, Jack thinks to hitman is a verb.
Yes.
And 2, this is the plot of Sixth Sense.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
We've done it.
My
that's the
mind's
plot
a
of
little
Sixth
bit
Sense.
blown. Little bit blown. Oh my god.
Sixth Sense, but for millennials.
Bruce Willis better watch out. Like, well, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but he's a bit beyond that. Anyway, moving on. Next question.
Okay, this has 2 different questions by 2 different people, but they're on the same similar topic. So I'll do one, then I'll do the other.
Okay.
So the first one is, do they have toilet paper in Canada?
Okay.
And the second one is, are there birds in Canada?
Right.
So, take a crack at that.
Okay. Crack. No, that's not. Well, So, I've never been to Canada. I've been to a lot of places, but the continent of North America is not one of them. Having never been to Canada, I can't explicitly state whether or not they have toilet paper and or birds. However, I would suggest that since, I don't know, the turn of the century maybe, probably before that, toilet paper is kind of a necessity for society to function. Otherwise, everyone would be super grumpy.
Well, I mean, toilet paper, maybe the idea of it, but there's a plant, isn't there, that you can use?
Yes, but it's not good, Ellie. I speak from experience. I did a lot of bush camps when I was in high school. I had to. And I wouldn't suggest using anything other than like a man-made paper product. Even the shittiest one-ply stuff you can find that's like as the brand savor menu quality. Not menu, you don't eat it. But that's better than anything that you can find in the wild. Except maybe an animal, but there's a whole nother different situation.
I would also say an animal would be worse.
If it's alive, yes. Because you don't need that wriggling. Or biting could happen as well. That's not good either.
Trying to use a snake.
Like, a furry pelt, if you were never going to use it again. Like, don't use it again. Could have
fleas.
Oh, shit. I didn't even think about that. That is the worst place to get fleas.
It very much is.
Anything you can find in the wild.
Oh,
anything.
That was a terrible pun.
More wine for me. Hang on a second.
I might have to get the vodka out.
Right. So, bottom line. Anything you can find in the wild that you want to use as an alternative for toilet paper is not going to be as good as toilet paper. I can say that with absolute certainty. What's the other point about birds? Before I move on to birds, leading from that, I would assume that someone in Canada had the idea, right? Because everyone else is doing it. Yeah, everyone else is doing it. And they do have internet in Canada. I know that because I speak to some Canadians online sometimes. I mean, when
they're not real, Jack.
Online. Yeah, because...
they're fake.
No, they could be. I don't know that for sure. You know, all of this discussion assumes that Canada even exists.
I know. There's a real question we haven't been asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Does Canada even exist?
It sounds a bit too good to be true, except for the bears.
And the harsh treatment of the Aboriginal people.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that as well. Other than that, it sounds a bit too good to be true, Ellie.
Yeah, so
maybe
what you're
Canada
saying is
real.
There may be birds and toilet paper in Canada, but does Canada even exist is the bigger question.
Yes, if it did exist, I would assume so. But we don't know that for sure, so take from that what you will.
Should I tell my parents that I'm adopted? I don't fit in the family, and I think it's time to come clean with them.
Okay, right, so first of all, I think your parents would know better than you would. Especially your mum, right? Because I think even in Hollywood, where it's kind of grim, birth is still romanticized. Childbirth is fucked, man.
It really is.
God. Things tear, and there's blood, and okay, no, I'm not getting into detail about childbirth. I think if you feel like you're adopted, but you haven't been told as much, you should broach the question to your parents, but don't tell them because they know better than you do. Like that's just a fact. They know better than you do. If your mum is like, no, I strictly remember pushing you out of me, I mean, that's dead giveaway that you're not adopted. So
yeah, absolutely.
Bear that in mind. On the other hand, what I have heard about, and I think this happens more in the States than over here, is kids getting accidentally swapped at birth. Now that's a whole like conspiracy going on, because they do take the Waynes away from Wayne means child. They take them away from you after you give birth and put them in a cot or something. I don't know. And a lot of people have suspicions that maybe they gave you back the wrong one. And one argument is that no. A hospital, a professional place of employment, would never make that kind of mistake. On the other hand, there are people that work in hospitals and like, maybe.
I mean, what they do here, or at least the hospital I was born in, I think it's the same across the UK, is my mum had a tag on like her wrist, and I had a tag as well.
Yeah. So
you could tell which baby was whose mum, because it was meant to be so mum couldn't run out of the hospital without being discharged formally.
Right.
Formally. But yeah, so you could kind of tell. So it's a very weird conspiracy in the States. It really is. But I think the biggest problem here is not the fact this person may be adopted. It's clearly some sort of family issues.
Yeah. And so I guess they're getting a feeling that they don't quite fit.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that happens with all families all the time. So in my family, it's quite a big family. There's 6 Waynes, 6 children, and 2 parents. There's my older sister, who is quite academically minded, is studying to be a doctor. That's crazy. And then there's me, fairly academically minded, studying to be a computing person, doing things with computers, doing my master's. So that's all right.
Not bad.
In fact, like, fun fact, I talked about this to my older sister. If I'd worked really hard, I could be a doctor before her, because if I went the PhD route, But anyway, that's irrelevant. Now, skip over my middle sister for a second. My brother, right? He's just finishing up high school. He's had 4 unconditional offers for university. One of them my alma mater, so I'm quite proud about that. So he's quite academically minded. Now, bouncing back up to my middle sister. She tried uni. She got into uni, tried it out, decided it wasn't for her. And she's very sharp, very bright, but would be the first to tell you, and she's told me this, she's not academically minded. She's not that kind of sit down, learn things, write about it kind of a person.
Yeah.
Now, compared with all my other siblings to date, that's a bit different. Doesn't mean she's not my sister. I mean, she might not be. But I'm pretty sure she is.
We'll go with she is.
Yeah. For argument's sake, let's say she's my sister. You get different people in families. It happens. Like, some traits are inherited, some are not. Some it's nature and nurture, some it's not. Some it's all just some kind of weird mix in the middle. You get different people in families. Like, yeah. And my sister is not, she says that she's not academically minded like the rest of us. She's still my sister, and we still have a fair bit in common that we can talk about and laugh about. So I don't think that she would immediately assume that she was adopted. But then again, she has exactly the same sense of humor as my dad.
So you know it's true.
A terrible sense of humor with bad puns and things. She's good at that. So, I mean, maybe that's an indicator that there's blood involved. But anyway, people are different in families. And if you feel left out, if you feel like you don't fit, that's okay. You can still be part of the family. You just need to find what it is that ties you together. And I'm sure there's got to be something, right? There's got to be something.
I imagine there is.
I got sent off to boarding school, was away from my family for, like, years when you add it all up. But I've still got things to connect with, so, yeah.
Even if it's just a shared heritage.
Yeah. There must be something tying you together, something you can find common ground on and be friends about. Because you should be friends with your family. It's quite important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, we can't even tell if this is a true question or just one of those funny ones. Well, it is quite funny, but I think every teenager or young person kind of goes through a phase with
Absolutely.
it sometimes, with feeling like you don't fit in here, you know, your family hates you. And this is not to downplay people who are actually having troubles with families as kids. But I think, you know, we all go through that phase where we think, my parents hate me, I'm secretly adopted. And I think you've just got to work through it.
Yeah. I think...
See what happens.
It's kind of such a meme these days that's like, oh, it's just a phase, where in a lot of cases it's really not just a phase. But I think when you look at the practicality, especially when it comes to not getting on with people in your family, and kind of how you're changing as an adolescent, it will be just a phase. I went through a kind of very angry period as a teen. I'm not an angry person now. And I wouldn't say that I'm defined by that period of my life. I got angry with people real quick. It just was something that happened. And it turned out to be a phase. Of course, that's not to play down people.
Yeah, not to undermine it.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It's not to undermine phases. Like like you were saying, it's become a very big internet meme to just say something, oh, it's just a phase. But just a phase it happens.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't lessen it.
Yeah, the phase is very real. That situation,
Yes.
you are feeling that. That is your life at that point. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to last forever, and it doesn't define you. So embrace that. And moving on, it may define you. It may be that phase turned out not to be a phase. But as you mature into an adult, I think you'll discover what it means to be you, and you'll come to terms with it. And all the stuff that was noise will fall away. That kind of deal. That's what I would say as someone who has almost become an adult.
he's so close. We're so proud of him.
I'm so close, man.
Right. On to another question.
Good. Yes, another question.
Excellent. More wine. I love the enthusiasm.
Yes.
So, can I safely look at a picture of the sun? I know it's bad to look at the sun, but what if I took a picture of it with my phone? Would it still ruin my eyes?
Long story short, no. Looking at a picture of the sun will not damage your eyes. Now, I'll go in depth in a little bit of pixel-related stuff. If you look at a completely white screen, it's not going to damage your eyes. And that is the absolute brightest an image can be, completely white, okay? Now, when you take a picture, the light waves are basically converted into bits and numbers, you know. And the maximum of that number is going to be white. And the absolute minimum, probably black, I think.
Probably.
Now, your picture of the sun is going to be encoded on that scale. So the brightest point of the sun is going to be white. And the darkest point of the sky is going to be black. And anything in between will be on that range. So, looking at a picture of the sun is fine. Because the absolute brightness that you can get from that is just going to be the color white. Which you see all the time. So, looking at a picture of the sun will not damage your eyes, fundamentally. Now, there's another question about how bright the screen is that you're looking at it on. But if it's a standard like phone or computer monitor, you're probably all right, okay? You're probably all right. I think what really damages your eyes, like obviously looking at very bright light sources can, but in terms of computers and phones and things, it's the difference between, like, for example, if it's very dark in your room and you suddenly turn on your phone screen and it's really bright, that does more damage to the cells in your retina than a sort of a gradual increase in light would. But that's a whole different argument. For the most part, looking at a picture of the sun is not going to damage your eyes because it's just some pixels, and we've already seen the brightest those pixels can possibly be. Okay? Good.
That's an incredibly in-depth explanation.
Thank you.
Of why you can look at a picture of the sun. I like that.
Good.
Our agony aunt really does live up to his name.
I sure do. Aunt Arthur.
I'm never going to be able to see you in the same light now. You ruined me.
Everything is a lie. If it's any consolation, I felt the same way as a kid, but that's okay.
Okay, on to our next Yahoo question.
Yes.
Are skeletons real or made up? My friend's mum says she was once chased by a skeleton, but I don't think skeletons are real. Please help me.
Okay. Okay. Everyone has a skeleton, usually.
Usually.
Okay, put it like this. I can't think of a single case of someone I've met who hasn't had a skeleton.
In your personal experience.
In my personal experience, yes. But the thing is that, like, and here's a brainwave, skeletons are inside of you. Yeah. It's fucked, I know.
And, you know, that's actually wrong, because you are your brain, and your brain is inside the skeleton, so you are inside the skeleton.
Well, that's also true. So, okay, on the point of animatronic sort of skeletons that can move by themselves, nah. That doesn't happen unless you're Skullduggery Pleasant. Great book series, read it. It's like young adult, but it's still great. I'm still reading it, and I'm young.
He's
adult,
an almost adult.
I'm an almost adult. Yeah. So skeletons can't actually move by themselves. You need muscles. You need muscles to do it, and by definition, I think if a skeleton had muscles, it's not a skeleton anymore. It's some bones with flesh on them, which. Well, you could say it's a skeleton. I'd say it's more like a zombie. But that's much of a muchness. I don't think your friend's mum actually did get chased by a skeleton. That would be my suggestion. So in that sense, no, I would say skeletons don't exist. But I think the person asking the question misses the fundamental point of the fact that skeletons do in fact exist, just not in the context that they possibly think they do.
Yes, that's definitely a fair statement.
Do you want to hear a fun fact that my girlfriend told me about skeletons? I don't know how true it is.
We would love to hear a fun fact that we're not quite sure how true it is.
Yeah. So how many bones are there in a skeleton? I'll tell you, it's 206, I think. And also, how many sovereign states are there in the world? Apparently, it's 206. So,
I'm
eat your heart
that.
out, Illuminati, or something. I don't know. But, I mean, that's very subjective because borders change. And also, if you're in a different country, you might not recognize the sovereignty of another one. For example, North Korea don't recognize the sovereignty of South Korea. I think they see them still as part of them.
And is it China and Taiwan?
China and Taiwan. That's is it Taiwan? Maybe.
Is it Taiwan? I can't remember which one it is. The one China policy.
China may well have some funny ideas about other countries. Or maybe it's Hong Kong.
No, I think it is Taiwan because it's the de facto independent.
Yes, it could well be Taiwan. So, I mean...
Well, Wikipedia says that membership within the UN divides the 206 listed states into 3 categories. So, but then, nationsonline.org says that since South Sudan became an independent state on the 9th of July 2011, there are now 195.
Whoa.
So I think it's a bit contentious.
It is. That's the problem with this theory. And
It
also
is.
another problem, if you're a baby, you've got less bones.
You have more bones.
Oh,
you have more bones, don't you?
I thought... Yeah,
No, you have less. No, it's more.
I
isn't
can't
it?
remember. Do they fuse together or do they
They
break
fuse
apart?
together. They fuse together.
I think you have more
Why would
skull
they
bones
break?
for sure. Well, I don't know. I figured like a baby has less movement, so they can't move as much because they got too many bones. I don't know.
No, because babies have more bones than
Okay,
adults.
Ellie, something we need to get out of the way. I'm not a baby, so don't
Yeah, they have
fucking
300
ask me.
bones. They have 300 bones
That's so many more bones.
because they all fuse together
Oh
as
my
you grow
God.
up.
That's so many more. Jesus Christ. That's
I've
so
just
many
blown
more
Jack's
bones,
mind.
though. Like, that's an extra 94 bones, Ellie. What the fuck are you going to do with 94 extra bones?
Well, you don't. They fuse together.
Yeah, but if you're a baby, imagine the potential. You could be like
Babies can't
a
even
long
lift their
jumper
heads.
who could do freaking ridiculous stuff because you've got an extra 94 bones.
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh.
Oh dear.
That's fucked. Anyway.
It is. On to the next one. So
okay.
this is a bit of a longer one.
Longer one?
So, I know.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm a 47-year-old female and a virgin. I've recently been asked out on a date by a local dustman, which I'm very much looking forward to. We are going to a local sausage convention and then display of champion cucumbers at the local farmer's market, after which he has made it very clear that he expects sex of some sort. I'm scared that an orgasm will kill me. So, what I really want to know is, do you have any ideas for sandwiches for a first date?
Okay. There's a lot to unpack from that question. Okay. Sandwiches. I assume, and I'm going to answer the question based on this, I assume that sandwiches have been mentioned as something that will be required beforehand. Because if you go on a date where sandwiches aren't required and you bring a sandwich, that's a little bit weird.
I think they're expected to have sandwiches there.
Okay, right.
Like the person brings sandwiches.
So, assuming that sandwiches are required for this event, well, that's a tough one. There's so many different kinds of sandwiches. You know, probably to save you the bother, I would make one of everything. One of everything you can think of. Make
one of everything?
Yes. Well, actually, two of everything. So that you
two
have
of everything, yeah.
Because, you need that. You'd make a ham sandwich and you'd make a cheese sandwich. You could make a beef and mustard sandwich, and then you could make a sandwich without the beef, which is just mustard.
Just a mustard sandwich. See, if my date brought me a mustard sandwich, I think I would dump them.
What I really meant to say there was a beef sandwich without mustard, in case they didn't like mustard, but I got my wires crossed. So now they've got a mustard sandwich. So that's good. Okay, so make that. The reason I say that is because, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, it's so difficult to gauge what kind of sandwich people would like. And the trouble with sandwiches is that, like, if you don't like a cheese sandwich, you really don't like a cheese sandwich. Like, you won't eat one, kind of deal. If you don't like that processed ham, the wafer thin stuff, then you just won't eat it. And that's difficult. That's so hard. I mean, after all these sandwiches I've been reeling off, probably the easiest thing to do in this situation is ask the guy. Ask him what kind of sandwiches he wants, because otherwise you can't guess. You really can't guess what kind of sandwich people like. What was the other thing? I'm worried that an orgasm might kill me.
Yes, I'm scared that an orgasm will kill me.
Okay, first of all, I don't think there's ever been a case where an orgasm has killed someone. And
that's a bold move. Can you back it up? Let's see.
I'm wasted. I have no need to back anything up. I just say things and you either believe them or don't. You probably shouldn't because I'm drunk.
Oh my god. Okay, so who wants a fun little thing? They have killed people.
Orgasms have killed people.
Yes, so Wikipedia has a page called Death During Consensual Sex.
Okay. Oh, are you talking about heart attacks?
I am talking about heart attacks.
Right, that's a different issue. But go on. Do go on. I want to hear about death during sex.
Because Nelson Rockefeller, who was the former Vice President of the United States, died in 1979 of a heart attack at age 70. It was rumoured to be caused by an orgasm. So that one is more of a rumour. Mm-hmm. But from what I can tell, once again, I am not a health professional. You get like a raised blood pressure and increased heart rate, which is perfectly normal and wouldn't usually kill anyone. However, if you had a heart condition, surely the increased blood rate could, in fact, cause a heart attack.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think this woman hasn't mentioned having heart problems.
Yeah. If you don't have a heart condition, you're probably all right. Let's go with that. Orgasms are not likely to kill you.
Doc, there have been a lot of rats around our area, and I'm terrified that one might bite my penis in the night. Is this likely?
My gut instinct is to say no. Because first of all, I don't think a rat is going to specifically target the penis. Because, as I understand it, the penis is really difficult to bite. Like, think about it. If you're asleep, you're covered in the duvet, which you should be, because otherwise, like, it's weird people that don't sleep with something covering them. That's crazy. You're covered in your duvet, and a rat comes in. Maybe it sneaks its way under the duvet. It's unlikely that if it's hungry enough, the first thing it's going to find is a penis. Okay? Even if it targeted the groin, if that just happened to be the area it was nosing towards, there's like hips and butt before it reaches penis. Unless you sleep in a really weird sleeping way where dick is out, like projecting itself, and you're naked, which would also have to be a caveat that I'm putting in here. You'd have to be naked. It's very, very unlikely. Also, if you got bit anywhere by a rat, see a doctor, because rabies are a thing, and also all kinds of fucked up things that rats carry. So, like, I would be concerned not about a rat biting me in a penis. I'd be concerned about a rat biting me anywhere, because that could kill you. So see a doctor. See a doctor. But if there's a lot of rats in your area, maybe talk to the council, because they can probably deal with that.
Yeah, that is definitely a good idea.
Yes.
Rather than asking a doctor whether or not you'll be bitten, which is highly unlikely, maybe instead direct your complaints towards the council.
Yeah, because they can get rid of those rats.
Right, this is our last question.
Last question.
Hit
me with it, but not physically, because that would hurt.
I'll arrive in Scotland with a bat. Did 206 actors die while making Saving Private Ryan?
My gut instinct says no.
And why does your gut instinct say that?
Because they're actors. And actors don't typically die on set. Yeah.
Well,
it's not a typical thing to happen, Ellie, especially not for 206 of them.
I also imagine it would have hit the news rather than a Yahoo question and answer.
I want to say Private Ryan was Spielberg, is that right? Do the Google.
Yes, it was
my
Spielberg.
Keyboard's super loud, yeah. Saving Private Ryan is amazing, by the way. And so
it is a very
Band
good
of
film.
Brothers, which is basically the same thing but in serial format. Oh my god. They're so good. So good. Where were we?
I think Saving Private Ryan, bodies. I think the most interesting thing is this person's put under additional details. They put a link to the IMDb page, which apparently says body count 206. I am currently on the IMDb page. I cannot see body count 206, which makes me think that it was either a joke edition or what they were reading was the in-film body count.
Yes.
I do not think 206 people died.
206 sounds about right for Saving Private Ryan. Because think about it, 206 is a lot of people, and a lot of people die in Saving Private Ryan. It's a really grim film. I would estimate that the bulk of that 206 die within the first 15 minutes. It's really grim. It's very heavy, but when was that filmed? 94? That sounds too early.
98.
98. God, 4 years out.
Very close. Right decade.
Right decade. I think standards of like kind of filming convention were at a point where people wouldn't have to die on set for things to look realistic. That is just, again,
Probably.
my gut instinct.
Probably. I'm looking at some trivia, and it is said there are 206 on-screen deaths during the movie.
That's what
I
I
imagine
thought,
this person just got mildly confused.
Yeah.
But yes, that was our last question.
Yay!
Thank you to my agony aunt Jack.
You're most welcome.
I think our audience are the most welcome.
Yeah.
If you've got any questions that you want Drunk Agony Aunt Jack to answer, please tweet us at SilverCrow Inc. or send us an ask on SilverCrow Media on Tumblr. We welcome any and everything, whether they're silly, more serious, or whatever. We will give it our best shot.
Best shot.
So, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next episode.
Bye.
Bye.